The bargain. Zora Tavik straightened the ceremonial collar of her trade guild uniform. The once brilliant emerald fabric now faded to a muted sage, a fitting metaphor for her crumbling business empire. Her 4 eyes blinked in sequence as she stared out the viewport of her ship, the relentless Fortune, at the imposing crystalline spires of Nexus Prime, seat of the Galactic Commerce Guild. "We have received clearance to dock at Bay 94C, Captain," announced her navigation officer, Shen, the Relori's tentacles dancing nervously over the control panel. "Guild representatives will meet us upon arrival." "So they can witness my humiliation up close," Zora muttered. She ran a 3-fingered hand over her scaled crest, a gesture her species made when stressed. How generous of them. Tavik Interstellar Trading, TIGT for short, an unfortunate acronym in human language that she'd learned about too late, was 3 payments away from complete dissolution. Her family's 4-generation legacy would end with her, crushed under the weight of regulations, taxation, and the predatory practices of Magistrate Dervin's trading conglomerate. As the relentless Fortune maneuvered into the docking bay, Zora slipped her hand into the hidden pocket of her uniform and felt the cool metallic disc there. The human debt marker, the one wild card she had left to play. "They're saying the magistrate himself will be overseeing the proceedings," Shen said, his voice quavering. "Of course he is," Zora replied. "Dervin wouldn't miss the chance to witness my downfall personally." The docking clamps engaged with a mechanical groan that seemed to echo her own internal despair. 4 cycles ago, her company controlled shipping routes across 5 star systems. She had a fleet of 30 vessels and warehouses on 12 planets. Now she was down to this single ship, and even that would soon be seized by the Guild. "Captain," Shen hesitated, "what's our plan exactly? The Guild has already denied our petition for extension." Zora turned all 4 eyes to her loyal officer. "We're going to call in a favor, Shen. From the humans." The Relori's skin fluctuated between shades of gray and yellow, the equivalent of a shocked expression. "The humans, but they're barely established in the galactic community. What could they possibly do against the Commerce Guild?" "That," Zora said, heading toward the airlock, "is what we're about to find out." As Zora stepped onto the pristine deck of Nexus Prime, memories of that fateful day 3 cycles ago flooded back to her. She had been conducting a routine cargo run through the Cauldron, a nebular region known for its treacherous gravitational eddies, when her sensors detected a distress signal. Most captains would have ignored it. The Cauldron was no place for rescue operations, but something in the signal's pattern caught her attention. It was a human vessel, the HFY Endeavor, caught in a gravity well with failing engines and life support, and circling it like predatory avians were 3 Vrex raider ships, notorious for stripping vessels and selling crews to the slave markets on the rim worlds. The smart move would have been to continue on course. The practical move would have been to log the coordinates and report it to Guild security once she reached her destination. But Zora had made a different choice. "Charge weapon systems," she had ordered. "Plot an intercept course." What followed was an 18-minute battle that left her ship with significant damage, but the Vrex raiders retreating into the nebula. When she docked with the Endeavor, she met Captain Maya Chen, a compact human female with dark hair cropped close to her scalp and eyes that seemed to calculate a dozen scenarios simultaneously. "You saved our lives," Chen had said after the rescue, pressing something into Zora's palm. "Humanity repays its debts, Captain Tavik. When you need us, and someday you will, activate this marker. We'll answer." Zora had accepted the token more out of politeness than expectation. What could humans, newcomers to the galactic stage, possibly offer her? She had tucked the marker away and promptly forgotten about it, until her empire began crumbling under Dervin's systematic attacks. Now, as she walked the gleaming corridors toward the Commerce Guild's central chamber, she clutched that marker in her palm like a talisman. The chamber doors loomed before her, 20 meters of polished obsidian carved with the history of galactic trade. They parted silently as she approached, revealing the semicircular council chamber beyond. At its center stood the imposing figure of Magistrate Dervin, his ceremonial robes catching the light from the artificial sun above. "Captain Tavik," he said, his voice carrying effortlessly through the chamber. "How gracious of you to arrive punctually for your own execution." Laughter rippled through the assembled guild officials. Zora kept her posture straight, refusing to show weakness. "The proceedings are simple," Dervin continued. "Your company has failed to meet its financial obligations to the guild. Your assets will be liquidated, your trade licenses revoked, and you will be relegated to citizen status level 3, restricting you to non-core worlds." Zora took a step forward. "Before the proceedings begin, I invoke Article 7 of the Commerce Code, the right to seek external partnership to settle obligations." A murmur swept through the chamber. Article 7 was rarely invoked. Few entities would willingly take on another's debt. Dervin's expression didn't change, but Zora noticed a slight twitch in his left antenna. And who, pray tell, would partner with a failing enterprise drowning in debt? Zora raised the metallic disc so all could see it. "I call upon humanity to honor its debt to me." The chamber erupted in laughter again, louder this time. "Humans," Dervin scoffed. "Those primitive newcomers barely understand interstellar economics. They have no standing in the guild, no significant assets, and certainly no influence here. Your desperation is showing, Captain." Zora held her ground. "According to Article 7, I have the right to summon my chosen partner. The humans owe me a blood debt, and I am calling it due." Dervin's expression tightened, but the law was clear. "Very well. You may activate your marker, but the guild will wait no longer than 3 standard cycles for a response before proceeding with asset seizure." With deliberate movements, Zora pressed the center of the disc. It hummed to life, projecting a small hologram of Earth's global emblem. "Debt marker activated," announced a synthetic voice. "Coordinates received. Authentication confirmed. Stand by for response." The chamber fell silent, all eyes on the small hologram hovering above Zora's palm. For several long moments, nothing happened. Dervin's mouth began to curl into a triumphant smile. Then the hologram flickered and expanded, forming a human figure in a formal blue uniform adorned with insignia Zora didn't recognize. "Greetings, Galactic Commerce Guild," the figure announced. "I am Admiral Eliza Novak of the United Earth Defense Force. We have received Captain Tavik's call and acknowledge our debt. A human delegation will arrive at Nexus Prime within 24 standard hours to address this matter." Dervin's expression shifted from smugness to uncertainty. "This is a Commerce Guild proceeding. Military representatives have no standing here." Admiral Novak smiled, that peculiar human expression that somehow managed to be both diplomatic and predatory. "Our delegation will include appropriate commercial representatives. Magistrate, humanity takes its debts very seriously, perhaps more seriously than the guild takes its own charter regarding fair competition." The hologram disappeared, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. Dervin's face had darkened to a dangerous hue. "You have your 3 cycles, Captain Tavik," he said, his voice tight with anger. "But know this, when your human saviors fail to materialize anything of substance, I will personally ensure that you never trade in guild space again." As Zora left the chamber, she wondered if she had just made the biggest mistake of her career. The humans were unpredictable, yes, but could they truly stand against the might of the Commerce Guild? She would have her answer soon enough. The impossible plan. Exactly 20 hours after Zora's call, a human vessel emerged from subspace near Nexus Prime. It was unlike any ship she had seen before, neither the utilitarian design of military craft nor the ostentatious luxury of diplomatic vessels. Instead, it resembled a sleek predator, all clean lines and purpose, with no unnecessary embellishments. Zora watched the approach from the observation deck of her docking bay, where she had been essentially confined since the hearing. The guild hadn't officially restricted her movements, but security personnel shadowed her everywhere, making it clear she was under surveillance. That's not a standard human diplomatic vessel, Shen observed, his tentacles twisting in concern. No, Zora agreed. It's something else entirely. The ship docked with a precision that spoke of expert piloting. When its airlock opened, Zora was surprised to see only 5 humans emerge. A small delegation for such an important matter. The lead figure was a tall, dark-skinned male with close-cropped silver hair and the bearing of someone accustomed to command. Beside him walked a shorter female with auburn hair pulled back in a tight configuration, her eyes scanning the docking bay with analytical intensity. The remaining 3, 2 males and a female, carried themselves with the alert readiness Zora associated with security personnel. Captain Tavik, the lead human said, extending his hand in their curious greeting custom. I'm Marcus Reed, Special Envoy for Interspecies Commerce. This is Dr. Sophia Lin, our economic strategist. Zora pressed her 3 fingers against his hand, still uncomfortable with the alien gesture. I expected Admiral Novak. Reed smiled. The Admiral sends her regrets. Diplomatic protocols prevented her direct involvement, but she's monitoring the situation closely. The Guild has given me 3 cycles before they seize my remaining assets, Zora said, lowering her voice. I appreciate humanity's response, but I don't see how 5 humans can stand against the Commerce Guild. Dr. Lin stepped forward, her expression serious. Captain, how familiar are you with the concept of asymmetric warfare? I'm a merchant, not a military strategist, Zora replied. It means, Reed explained, that when you can't match your opponent's strength directly, you change the rules of engagement. The Guild expects us to attempt traditional financial maneuvering. Loans, partnerships, restructuring. We're going to do something entirely different. Zora led them to her ship's conference room, securing it against surveillance before allowing the humans to explain their plan. What they proposed was so audacious, so completely outside Guild regulatory frameworks, that at first Zora thought they were joking. You want to create an alternative trading system? She asked, all 4 of her eyes wide with disbelief. Outside Guild jurisdiction. Not outside it, Dr. Lin corrected. Adjacent to it. The Guild's charter, Section 47B, allows for specialized trading arrangements for emerging species integration. Reed nodded. Humanity qualifies as an emerging species. We're proposing to establish what we call a special economic zone with you as our primary trade partner and facilitator. The Guild will never approve this, Zora argued. Dervin will block it personally. He can try, Reed said, his smile taking on a predatory edge. But we've been analyzing Guild regulations for years. There's a provision that requires the Guild to consider all legitimate proposals from emerging species as part of their mandate for galactic integration. Dr. Lin activated a holographic display showing complex legal text. Furthermore, if they reject our proposal, we can trigger a mandatory review by the full Guild Council, which would delay any action against you for at least 15 cycles. Zora's mind raced with possibilities. But that's just a delay tactic. Eventually, they'll rule against us, and my situation will be even worse. That's why the delay is just Phase 1, Reed explained. Phase 2 is where things get interesting. Over the next several hours, the humans outlined a plan so intricate, so precisely calibrated to exploit loopholes in Guild regulations, that Zora found herself alternating between hope and terror. What they proposed wasn't just about saving her business. It was about fundamentally transforming it into something the Guild had never seen before. You're not just risking my company, Zora said when they finished. You're risking humanity's standing in the Guild. Why would you do this for a debt that could be satisfied with far less? Reed exchanged glances with Dr. Lin. Because Captain Chen didn't just report that you saved their ship, Captain Tavik. She reported how you conducted your rescue, with precision, courage, and honor. Those are qualities humanity values. He paused. And because we've been looking for an opening to challenge the Guild's monopolistic practices for some time, you've provided us with the perfect opportunity. Zora studied the humans with new appreciation. Perhaps she had underestimated them after all. "The plan requires resources I no longer have," she pointed out. "My fleet is reduced to this single vessel." "We've accounted for that," Dr. Lin assured her. "A contingent of human merchant ships is already en route, officially registered as a cultural exchange mission, and we'll need to move quickly," Reed added. "We submit our proposal to the Guild tomorrow, forcing them into a procedural response that will gain us the time we need." As the humans departed to prepare their documents, Shen approached Zora, his skin cycling through anxious color patterns. "Captain, are we really doing this? Challenging the Guild with some human scheme?" Zora watched the humans walking toward their ship, their postures confident despite being surrounded by Guild security personnel. "Yes, Shen, we are. Because right now, an impossible human plan is better than the certain destruction we face without them." The next day, Zora stood beside Reed in the Commerce Guild chamber as he formally submitted humanity's proposal. The document was delivered with such impeccable adherence to Guild protocol that even Dervin couldn't immediately dismiss it. "This proposal requires review," the magistrate finally said, his tone carefully controlled. "The Guild will render its decision within the standard evaluation period, which is 30 cycles, according to Section 89C of the Guild Charter," Reed pointed out pleasantly. Dervin's expression darkened. "Captain Tavik's situation requires more immediate resolution." "Actually," Dr. Lin interjected, "by accepting our proposal for review, you've linked our application with Captain Tavik's case. Guild Regulation 142A specifically prohibits any asset seizure during a pending integration proposal evaluation." The chamber fell silent as Guild officials hurriedly consulted their legal databases. Dervin's face contorted in barely contained fury as his advisors confirmed Dr. Lin's assertion. "Very well," he said finally. "The proceedings against Tavik Interstellar Trading are suspended pending review of humanity's proposal. But be warned, if this is merely a delaying tactic, there will be consequences for both parties." As they left the chamber, Zora felt a strange mixture of relief and foreboding. "That went better than expected," she whispered to Reed. The human nodded. "Phase 1 complete. Now comes the hard part. We have 30 cycles to transform your company before Dervin finds a way to shut us down. And how exactly do we do that with one ship and no operating capital?" Reed's smile was cryptic. "There's a human phrase you might find appropriate, Captain Tavik. Sometimes you have to break a few eggs to make an omelet." "I don't know what eggs or omelets are," Zora replied, "but I'm starting to think humanity is considerably more dangerous than the Guild realizes. That," Reed said, "is counting on." The Reckoning. 28 cycles later, Zora stood on the bridge of the Relentless Fortune, marveling at the transformation. What had once been her last remaining ship was now the command vessel for a fleet of 17. 12 human merchant ships and 5 of her former vessels, reacquired through a series of dazzlingly complex transactions engineered by Dr. Lin. The humans had moved with astonishing speed and creativity. Using their status as an emerging species, they had established a temporary trading hub in the Cauldron Nebula, technically within Guild jurisdiction, but so rarely patrolled that it functioned as a free zone. From there, they had implemented what Reed called disruptive trade practices. The humans offered shipping rates 30% below Guild standards, focusing on routes and cargoes the Guild considered unprofitable. They established direct relationships with producers on non-core worlds, eliminating the Guild middlemen who typically skimmed substantial profits. Most revolutionary was their payment system, a blockchain-based cryptocurrency that operated outside the Guild's financial network while still being convertible to standard credits. Transactions that would have taken days under Guild protocols were completed in minutes. Magistrate Dervin has called for an emergency Guild session, Shen reported, his skin now a confident blue. "Our intelligence suggests he plans to force an immediate ruling on the human proposal." Zora nodded. She had expected this. Dervin couldn't afford to wait any longer. In less than 30 cycles, the human-Tavik partnership had captured 8% of trade volume in 2 sectors, small in absolute terms, but growing at a rate that alarmed guild authorities. "Is everything in position?" she asked. "Yes, Captain. All ships report ready. Human legal team is standing by." Zora activated the communications array. "Reed, are you prepared?" The human's face appeared on the view screen, his expression calm despite the enormity of what they were about to attempt. "All set, Captain. Remember, timing is everything. Dervin will make his move, you'll make yours, and then we drop our surprise." 2 hours later, Zora once again stood in the Commerce Guild chamber. This time, however, she wasn't a supplicant facing ruin. She stood as an equal, her newly restored ceremonial collar gleaming with fresh emerald thread. Magistrate Dervin called the session to order, dispensing with the usual formalities. "The Guild has reviewed humanity's proposal for a special economic zone and finds it incompatible with established trade protocols. The proposal is rejected, and all provisional arrangements are hereby terminated." He turned his cold gaze to Zora. "Furthermore, given Captain Tavik's involvement in these disruptive activities, the previous proceedings against Tavik Interstellar Trading are reinstated with immediate effect." Exactly as they had predicted, Zora stepped forward. "I invoke Article 94 of the Guild Charter, the right of member appeal to the full council." Dervin's expression didn't change. "That right is reserved for Guild members in good standing, which you are not." "Actually," Reed interjected, rising from his seat in the observer section, "as humanity's designated trade partner, Captain Tavik is operating under our emerging species protections, which specifically grant access to all appeal mechanisms." Before Dervin could respond, the chamber doors opened and a procession of beings entered, representatives from 12 non-core worlds, all dressed in formal diplomatic attire. "What is the meaning of this intrusion?" Dervin demanded. The lead representative, a dignified Alar with silver fur, stepped forward. "We come as witnesses and petitioners. We represent worlds whose economies have benefited from the Human Tavik Trading Initiative. We request the right to address the Guild regarding their petition." "This is unprecedented," Dervin spluttered. "The Guild does not recognize." Section 122D of the Charter, Dr. Lin called out clearly, specifically allows affected parties to provide testimony during appeal proceedings. As the chamber erupted in confusion, Reed gave an almost imperceptible nod to Zora. It was time for their final move. Zora activated her communication implant. "Execute Protocol Omega." Throughout the Nexus system and in 6 adjoining sectors, every information screen, whether public or private, suddenly displayed the same message. ATTNTYON. The FOLODOINGIS APUBBLIC INTERISTANNO NCMENT ORIGARDING TOMMERC GUILD PRIXDTCs. What followed was a meticulously documented presentation of Guild financial records, specifically records of Magistrate Dervin's trading conglomerate systematically targeting and destroying competitors through regulatory manipulation, bribery, and occasionally more violent means. Records that the humans had somehow obtained through methods they refused to explain to Zora. In the Guild chamber, Dervin's personal communication device chimed with urgent messages. His face paled as he realized what was happening. "This is illegal," he roared. "You have no authority to broadcast." "We're not broadcasting anything," Reed said innocently. "We're simply making information available to interested parties, information that was already in the public domain, just difficult to access. This is corporate terrorism." "This," Zora countered, "is fair competition, something the Guild claims to protect but has systematically undermined under your leadership, Magistrate." The chamber had fallen into chaos, with Guild officials frantically communicating with their offices while the representatives from the non-core worlds watched with barely concealed satisfaction. Above the din, a new voice rang out. Firm, authoritative, and unmistakably human. The United Earth Government formally requests an emergency session of the Galactic Council to review evidence of Commerce Guild corruption and regulatory capture. Admiral Novak had entered the chamber, flanked by a delegation of human officials in formal diplomatic attire. "You have no standing," Dervin began. "Article 17 of the Galactic Charter," Novak interrupted, "grants any recognized species the right to call for review when systematic corruption threatens galactic stability. We are exercising that right." The legal battle that followed lasted for weeks, but the outcome was never really in doubt. The evidence was too comprehensive, the witnesses too numerous, and the economic impact too significant to ignore. 3 months later, Zora stood on the observation deck of her flagship, now one of 42 vessels in the Tavik Human Cooperative Fleet. Below her, the newly designated Free Trade Station Horizon orbited the once neglected world of Katera Prime, bustling with commercial activity. The last of Dervin's associates have been removed from the guild leadership, Reed informed her as he joined her at the viewport. The new regulatory framework goes into effect next quarter. "And humanity's standing in the galactic community?" Zora asked. "Complicated," Reed admitted with a smile. "Some see us as dangerous radicals who don't respect traditional hierarchies. Others view us as champions of fairness and innovation. Either way, we're not being ignored anymore." Zora turned all 4 eyes to him. "When Captain Chen gave me that debt marker, I never imagined it would lead to this. I thought, at best, humanity might offer me a loan or a minor trade concession." "That's the thing about humans, Captain Tavik," Reed said, gazing out at the stars. "We don't do things by half measures. When we owe a debt, we pay it in full, with interest." "A dangerous species to have as enemies," Zora observed. "But a valuable one to have as friends," Reed countered. "Speaking of which, there's something we'd like to discuss with you regarding expansion into the fringe territories." Zora found herself doing the human expression of smiling. When humanity owed you a favor, it seemed the impossible became merely improbable, and the future expanded to include possibilities no one had imagined before. Perhaps saving that human ship had been the wisest business decision she'd ever made.